Yeah, we're live. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. I'm Ray, and this is This Week in Real Estate. I can't see everyone in Clubhouse. I can see we're broadcasting everywhere. We're broadcasting on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Instagram. We're everywhere. So thanks to everyone for joining us today. We have a lot of news to cover today, and it's Fed Day. So at the very end of our show, the Fed will announce his rate drop, and we'll see how much he's actually decided to drop. Some say it's going to be 0.5 point today. Some say there's no way it's going to be 0.5 point today. So I don't know. I hope it's 0.5 point today, but I have a feeling that since he's on his way out, he's just going to do 1/4 point because I don't think he wants to give this administration any love. But drop your predictions in the comments. We already have Matt LaMarche in the comments. Oh no, he says here but not here. He's interviewing agents today. I'll tell you what, Matt. Key question is, do they listen to This Week in Real Estate, hosted by the Bearded Men of Real Estate? If that's a no, I don't know that you can hire them. Thanks everyone for joining. Be sure to make your comments known. On YouTube, I can display it. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Kick. If you're going to comment on Instagram, I can just give your Instagram name a shout out. And as always, we're also live on Clubhouse. So if you want to add your voice to the show, hop on there. We have one more show until our last show of the year. The prediction special. So I'm super excited about that. If for those of you that have never been here before, maybe this is your first time listening, the prediction special is where we actually go back to what we said last year and we check and say, okay, did what we say would happen actually happen? Yes or no? And I usually have guests on the show during the prediction special as well. So if you're interested in being on the show and you're a listener to the show, maybe you're a podcast, I would love to get somebody that's usually like an audio only podcast listener that downloads to the show. There's thousands of you guys, believe it or not, tens of hundreds of you that listen to the show there. And I would love to get some of you guys on the show live. We're going to also have a contingent. Of course, Clubhouse is always ruckus on that day because everyone wants to show their smarts and say what they predicted. But I do go back and listen to the previous episode and note what everyone predicted. And then we look at what actually happened. So the predictions are usually rate predictions. We'll usually talk about the economy. Are we going to be a buyer or seller's market? And then we always have one like crazy, audacious prediction, a big goal. And I can already tell you that one of my predictions is not come true. Every year, I predict that the National Association of Realtors, in order to stay viable, will launch the public-facing search for consumers, in which leads go to the listing agents. And every year, I think for 4 or 5 years now, I've been wrong. So it's become less of a prediction and more of a hope, I think. So you don't want to miss that. We broadcast live at, 1 o'clock Eastern time. That's 10 o'clock California Pacific time. I can't remember what time it is over in Israel, but we're also live there. Still, I think the number 16 show in Tibet for whatever reason. It's funny. YouTube broadcasting stats are funny. Okay. And I don't know if you guys are watching live, does it get choppy every now and then? I'm watching my video feed, and my video feed is getting choppy every now and then. I don't know why it's doing that. So, Janice Fleming said, how did Matt get crowned fingered red #1? Oh, that's an emoji. Look at that. How did Matt get crowned finger red #1? Look at what it does to the emojis. It doesn't come through, Janice. Sorry. It just says what the name of finger red #1 is, which sounds terrible. Dylan Irwin's here. He says, I want to hear the prediction special. Y'all. It is kind of nice with AI. You know, used to when Dan and I did the show, Just said that looks horrible. Yes, I know. Usually when Dan was with me on the show, he was responsible for going back and making notes. And Dan has been replaced by AI in that job. So now AI goes back and highlights everyone's predictions using the transcript of the show and makes it really nice and neat. So that's kind of nice. Dylan said just a hair on LinkedIn, but it's tolerable. So that, yeah, I don't know what's causing that. Well, I do know what's causing that. It's something with the connection, but it happened ever since now I'm dual broadcasting. So I'm broadcasting with the regular 16 by 9-inch widescreen view. And over on Instagram, I have now a special 9 by 16 vertical view. And ever since they switched to that, it has been a little bit choppy. So I'm sure it'll get better in time. Okay. Well, are we ready to jump into this stuff? Because we do have a lot to cover. And then at the very end of the show, the Fed will be announcing. I haven't said this in a while. I should. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, you can always go down into the show notes, and we have a link to all the articles and all the sources are there. But we also have timestamps that show you when we cover what, and you could click on that timestamp and zoom right to the article that you're most interested in. I believe we also put those show notes on the podcast, which I know you can't click, but at least you can kind of see where that time is, and then just scroll your finger and find your favorite articles. So if you are here from in the future and you just want the AI, the Fed stuff, why did I say AI? If you just want the Fed stuff, just click at the bottom there. It's going to be towards the end of the show. I can tell you that. Okay. Well, let's dive in, because we got some big news. Zillow, Compass, they're back at it. Zillow, Compass making final push ahead of hearing decision. What I thought was most interesting, I mean, this is a article that does a really great job summarizing everything that we've covered so far. So the article's over there on Inman. If I can get back to sorry, I have way too many tabs open as you. But I thought they did a really good job going through and saying, okay, here's where everyone stands. Here's what the arguments are. So 2 weeks after going head to head in a 4-day evidentiary hearing is just what evidence comes in, what evidence doesn't come in. Zillow's private listing policy, the court has given Zillow and Compass one more chance to make their case through a set of post-hearing filings. The documents filed at the end of last week summarize each party's argument. So this is what I really like, because this is after the evidence has been in. This is what they're all staking their claim on. Zillow's post-hearing filing argued against Compass's antitrust claim, saying that the portal giant is within its rights to create and enforce a listing ban per the Federal Trade Commission's guidelines that say a company has the general right to decline to do business with another company as long as it doesn't harm competition. That's the key phrase there, as long as it doesn't harm competition. And I think given everything that we have here, wouldn't Zillow be hard pressed to show that it's not harming competition? I just feel like if everyone's reading what I'm reading. Brian Hershey, what's up? Brian Hershey over on Instagram says, I'm here. Let's go. You can start over. I missed some. Can you start over? I missed some. No, I can't start over, sir. But I appreciate you being here. And Brian sent me a photo. Maybe I'll show it at the end of the show. Brian sent me a photo of us. Was that 25 years ago? 20 years ago? Crazy. I think weren't we at Chick-fil-A or something? There was a chicken in it. I can't remember where we were. Yeah, it was a long time ago. All right. Zillow said Compass's record-breaking second and third quarter financial results show the policy had no material impact on the brokerage's bottom line, and argued that if it had, Compass would have disclosed as much in its Securities Exchange Commission filings. So basically, Zillow's argument is, well, you say this hurts business, but you guys have had a record year. And you should have announced this in your earnings filings, and you didn't. So therefore, it must not make that much of a difference. And you didn't talk about it when you had the proposed acquisition of Anywhere. So Zillow's making the argument that if this does hurt your business, then why didn't you say so? Which is interesting. And they're basically using the investor speak that we all talk about, those investor calls. They're basically using those investor calls against them, which is interesting. Now, I think Compass could argue, well, the impact hasn't been completely thought through yet because we're currently suing about it. And also, not all the public knows about this information, but as soon as it gets out there, it would. So I think it would be a fairly easy argument to say, look, this just happened. The portal also argued, Zillow, the portal also argued that any decline encompasses three-phase marketing plan, which sees some listings begin their life cycle off market, doesn't necessarily mean that the brokerage lost listings. It only means that the sellers were given their options but decided not to take that route. Zillow said it didn't coordinate its policy with Redfin, whose CEO Glenn Kelman learned of it one business day before the public announcement on April 10th. Redfin announced its own version of the rule April 14th. However, the company leaders decided not to enforce it. So 4 days after Zillow announces theirs, Redfin already has a plan in place to do the same. And supposedly there's no collusion there. Zillow said the policy actually benefits the market by preventing the fragmentation of listings, which would harm home buyers and sellers who rely on timely, accurate market information to make decisions. All right. The portal said the preliminary injunction against its listing access standards, the policy's official name, would harm home buyers and sellers who benefit from listings being displayed in the broadest possible audience. Okay, so let's parse this phrase. A preliminary injunction against the listing access standards. In other words, saying like, hey, you guys might have a right to do this, but we need to figure it out in court, and you can't currently do this now. So go back to the way you were. That's what the preliminary injunction would do. And the reason why Zillow says that the preliminary injunction would be a bad thing is because it would harm home sellers and buyers who benefit from listings being displayed and marketed to the broadest possible audience. But their action is actually taking listings off the market. So their action doesn't match what they claim is the benefit of not going the preliminary injunction. Now this is rich. Zillow said the preliminary injunction against listing access standards would infringe on its First Amendment rights. What? By forcing it to display content that violates its values. That feels like a stretch. O'Brien Hershey says it was Featherfest in Springdale, Arkansas. 2001. Featherfest. I can't believe I went to Featherfest. Sorry. Distraction. I got ADHD. Compass's injunction would curtail Zillow's right to curate the advertisements listings that its platform carries in violation of the First Amendment. The filing read, harm is irreversible. All right, so that's Zillow's rebuttal. Why didn't they talk about Compass's case first? You would think like this is what Compass is the one suing Zillow. I don't know. Compass post-hearing filings focus on the harm Zillow's rule allegedly caused brokerages in the three-phase marketing plan, which had previously experienced major growth in adoption. The brokerage said Zillow holds monopolistic market power in online home search and created the policy to eliminate competition based on unique inventory. Compass said a drop in adoption of its three-phase marketing plan proves the existence of anti-competitive harm. The three-phase plan reached 39% adoption by April 2025. However, the plan declined after Zillow's April 10th announcement, dropping to 22%, so a 3% decline. Although Zillow says its rules enforce evenly, Compass claims Zillow had specifically targeted the brokerage. The filing presents a non-compliance notice data showing that Compass listing agents have received the lion's share of notices. Oh, man. So I really, every week, I have it go automatically on something that blocks all calls on my phone. And then it doesn't block it. So I have no idea why it does that. There. Let's see. Dylan Irwin says there's big money involved in home sale transactions. Big tech has the advantage. The world real estate is changing. Amazon versus local realtors is an example. Monopoly. Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't know that big tech has the advantage in real life. I think the market presumes big tech has the advantage. I think the market sees big tech as the winner through all of this. But I think that the local realtor has the actual advantage And the this sounds lame, but the tech-enabled agent, that's the phrase they were using like 4 or 5 years ago. The AI-enabled agent, they're going to be the ones that really benefit. So any tech or platform that chases after the home buyer or seller is a hard knock life, because you could catch one real estate agent. Like, we do over 100 transactions a year. So any platform that catches me, it's an automatic 100 transactions a year coming your way. However, you could also try to chase after 100 different transactions, buyers or sellers in this area, and you might catch them. But next year you have to do the same exact thing, because those home buyers and sellers that bought last year aren't going to buy this next year. However, as a real estate agent, I'll still do 100 to 150 transactions the next year. So I think it's easier for big tech to target real estate agents and give them tools that make their clients' lives easier and their lives easier, which is one of the ways Real Broker has a foot in the industry, is because they're trying to give tools that make real estate agents' lives easier in serving their clients. So any technology company that's doing that, I think they have the advantage. But a big tech company that's after the consumer, who's buying a house one time every 13 years, that's tough. Okay, the brokerage, this is Compass. They argue that Zillow's policy restricts home seller choice and listing agents' ability to market a home as their seller wishes, which obviously it does. Compass also argues the rule discourages other brokers from creating innovative marketing solutions. Compass is filing further pushes back on Zillow's refusal to deal argument, saying that the portal's rule puts limitations on its consumers and not its fellow competitors. The brokerage said it believed it has thoroughly established the need for a preliminary injunction, as the listing access standards have caused Compass to lose its first mover advantage, diminishing goodwill and reputation. Finally, quote, finally, the public interest would best be served by the injunction. When evaluating this factor, the court must ensure that the public interest would not be disserved by the injunction. In antitrust cases, protecting the public from potential antitrust violation cut strongly in favor of the injunction. That's what the filing said. And then they have copies of the filing, so you guys can read those filings. One of my questions about these filings, where'd you go? Someone raised your hand and then left. Was that you, Cindy? I don't know that I'm seeing everyone over there. What's up, Meryl? I think an interesting question about this is some of the evidence that we were starting to hear was pretty terrible for Zillow. So I'm shocked that they're letting this go to court and not settling and just saying, all right, forget it. Because I think this is not going to be good for Zillow. I think in the long run, Compass is going to come out ahead, because they look like they're championing it for consumers, and they look like they're championing it for real estate agents, especially in the news that we covered last week, when Compass's CEO, Robert Refkin, announced on, I guess it was Facebook, he said that they rejected the deal that Zillow offered them. And that deal was like $1.6 billion a year, like little, hey, let us uplift your revenue if you'll just put all your listings on our website. And I feel like that cuts strongly in favor of this being a settlement in the future and not all this evidence coming out. But maybe Compass has just refused to settle, and they're saying, no, let's just go all the way. But I think that proved that it's not possible in that scenario for Compass to be anti-agent when they could have just taken the money and kind of gone against the agent and caved to Zillow. So then agents wouldn't have a choice but to do what Zillow says. So I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. But the public perception is now actually something that Zillow is trying to deal with firsthand, because this isn't a good look for them. So they have come out and said, like, hey, we I should have used just thought of this on the thumbnail for this show. I should have used the Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, "We are not the droids you're looking for." I should have used it with Zillow saying, recent litigation misrepresents us. That would be recent litigation misrepresents us. Yeah, that's that's what Zillow is trying to say with a Jedi mind trick. In an email and video message sent to preferred agents on Thursday, the company's head of Zillow Preferred answered FAQs and reassured agents that legal experts review all programs. So this is coming from a pretty big blast of people saying like, hey, am I going to get sued because of what Zillow's doing and the deal that we have with Zillow Lending and the deal that we have with the other Zillow products and how I'm referring these Zillow products to my clients? Am I going to get sued for that? And I think Zillow had to come out and say, no. Well, all of our attorneys have been reviewing this stuff and you should be okay. But the non-disclosure, the fact that Zillow has referral deals out there and are not disclosing the referral deals, or not, it's not obvious. Maybe it is in some kind of terms of service tucked away somewhere. But the fact that that's not been disclosed and is just like a seller not disclosing that they're paying the buyer's agent, I feel like that's pretty clear grounds for a Sitzer-Burnett type of lawsuit to get some legs. But Zillow claims that they have everyone, they have legal department, and the legal department says, nah. So the real estate industry's best known portal has been under a lot of pressure after becoming the recipient of lawsuits over alleged copyright infringement, broker kickbacks with its mortgage arm, deceptive flex agent tactics, and antitrust violations. Now it appears that some of Zillow's partner agents, once known as flex agents, and now its preferred agents, may be getting a little spooked by all the negative headlines. It's more than negative headlines. It's people that have looked at all this and have said, hey, you guys are going to get sued. So be prepared to write the check. I think that's what Glenda Baker said. Be prepared to write the check. Hinman learned the company on Thursday sent out an email for clarity and reassurance regarding the litigation. On Friday, the video from the email was published on Zillow's agent-facing website. Zillow declined to comment further on the message. You want to take a look at the video? I have to, yeah. Let's take a look at this video. I have to reshare the video with share screen, a message from Zillow's leadership with audio included. All right, here we are. All right. What's up, Adam? Adam Johnson said, in other news, Zillow buys Compass. Yeah. Zillow buys Compass / anywhere. Yeah. It is interesting to think about how much money they have. They just turned profitability recently. So cash on hand would be a bit of an issue for them, I think, for that. Okay. Let's watch this video together. Let me turn down the background. Let's watch this video together and see what this message from Zillow is. This is from Zariah Washington, the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Zillow Preferred.
I wanted to take a moment to speak to you directly about the recent lawsuits and headlines surrounding Zillow Preferred and what they mean for you. I know this has created concern and uncertainty. I've also heard your questions about risk, stability, and how this moment might impact your teams and your business.
Let's sped her up just a
So I
little bit.
want to acknowledge that up front. You deserve clarity, so let me be straightforward. The claims in these lawsuits are false.
So they got 20 minutes in before they got to the, or 20 seconds in before they got to the claims are false.
And fundamentally mischaracterize how Zillow Preferred operates. Everything we do starts and ends with a consumer. Buyers and sellers deserve choice and who they work with and transparency throughout the process. And that has been core to our model from day one. Zillow Preferred is built on a strong compliance.
Do y'all feel like this is AI? I feel like this kind of looks a little bit like AI. I did speed it up to 1.25, but the mannerisms and everything are a lot like my own AI avatar that I use. Thomas Canada. Wait, Thomas A. Canada on Instagram said, Netflix is buying Zillow. Go full circle. It doesn't feel authentic. He said, yeah, I know. Now I did speed it up, but even before I speeded it up, I thought this feels very much AI. Let me see what the commenters are saying over on the. Okay, yeah. Here, let's go this.
Foundation. We operate in a heavily regulated environment, and we design our programs with careful consideration of the rules, including RESPA. We regularly review our processes with internal and external experts and collaborate with these legal experts.
Is processes the correct plural form of the word process? And I'm not asking the Canadians because I know what y'all say. Process. Y'all are all about the process. Oh, that's a big boy Bill on YouTube says most likely an AI script. Yeah, that's a good point. Adam Johnson said, in other news, Compass does a hostile takeover of Zillow. I would more believe that. All right, let's keep going. We're a minute in.
And importantly, consumers maintain full lender choice, which is a critical component of RESPA compliance.
So they're saying that consumers maintain full lender choice. However, what some of the people have said is coming out are, and this is allegedly are pamphlets and like speaking engagements and things like that, where Zillow specifically said, if you want more referrals from Zillow as a flex partner, as an agent working with Zillow, then you will have a score that says, here's how much you've been referring our ancillary businesses. And based on that score, you'll get more or less referrals. So yes, consumers have a choice, but the agent is also pushed to push. Thomas says, I'm not Canadian. It's just my last name. Wow. That's cool. Thomas. So is it a Canada then? Is your last name not Thomas A. Canada, or is A your middle name? Because that's pretty great, actually. All right, let's keep going. She says, which is critical component of RESPA.
Zillow Home Loans remains a competitive option for most clients, and we are consistently enhancing the experience to better meet what consumers want and expect.
Okay, what agents have said is that the Zillow program is not that competitive. And some, I believe in one of the filings, but I could be wrong. It could just be the people talking about the filings. But agents have said that the Zillow loan program was not competitive and was even worse than a local lender option.
Let me be clear. Our job is to earn.
Let me be clear. Let me be clear. That's total Barack Obama.
That business. While we have reason to believe some of these lawsuits and headlines are competitively motivated, that is not what matters or where I want to put the focus today. What matters most is supporting you, protecting your business, and ensuring we continue to operate in a way that's compliant, transparent, and squarely centered on consumer choice.
See, she said complying it. Complying it sounds like an AI misstep. Did y'all hear that?
Business and ensuring we continue to operate in a way that's compliant, transparent, and squarely centered on consumer choice. We've already connected.
Maybe she just has a northern accent, and I'm Southern.
With the named partners and will be supporting them through this process. And for any partner who is named in either of these suits, we plan to enter into a joint defense agreement.
Okay, so yes, there are named partners in the lawsuit. So the named partners are some of the flex agents. And they're saying we will enter in a joint defense agreement, which is interesting. And I think flex partners that take that deal may not like the outcome, because, there's been a joint defense agreement for something like NAR, right? Wasn't that a joint defense agreement that all the brokerages were like, yeah, they can represent us. And then they failed and we paid them $4 billion. But I think the joint defense agreement may not be advisable, because it may behoove some of those flex partners to turn on Zillow. But by getting a joint defense agreement, it guarantees that those flex partners won't or can't turn on Zillow, because then there'll be a conflict of interest with the attorney. So I encourage all of the flex partners out there. Let me make this big screen because I want you to see it. I encourage all the flex partners out there that are being named in these lawsuits and offered the joint defense agreement to talk to an attorney about the joint defense agreement, because what you might find in the joint defense agreement is that you can't turn on Zillow if you need to save your own butt. because that would be a conflict of interest, and that attorney could no longer represent you. But it might be in your best interest as a flex partner to turn on Zillow and to say, no, this is what they told us. This is what they told us to do. And if you are in a joint defense agreement, I guarantee it says in there that you can't turn on them. So I strongly encourage any flex partners that are out there, consult an attorney before you agree to the joint defense agreement. Because if you agree to that, there's a chance that it may not be good for your actual defense. It may be better for your actual defense to stand alone and say, no, this is what we were told to do. Here's the documentation. Here's the proof. Here's everything we have. But then you could also be culpable. So it's a tough decision. Do you take $1 billion company's defense and a claim that, yeah, we'll protect you? What if they settle? That means you settle too. And what if you don't have the money to write that check? That's your joint defense agreement, man. So consult an attorney before you take their joint defense agreement. All right, we'll keep going. I think that means, I forgot to reshare. Hang on. I don't know if y'all can hear that. I'll put it up. All right. Let me back up a little bit.
Today, what matters most is supporting you, protecting your business, and ensuring we continue to operate in a way that's compliant, transparent, and squarely centered on consumer choice. We've already connected with the named partners and will be supporting them through this process. And for any partner who is named in either of these suits, we plan to enter into a joint defense agreement. Mm-hmm. We will vigorously defend against these claims.
That also means that there's no turning back, right? There's no settlement there if they say we're going to vigorously defend against it. Then isn't that what y'all read? I'm not an attorney, but that's what I read. Cooper Skelton said, didn't Big Tobacco say the same thing? Yeah.
Nothing in these filings changes how Zillow Preferred operates today or how you serve consumers. We believe the program delivers the best outcomes for buyers and sellers, and we remain committed to it. I take seriously the trust you place in us. You rely on us not just to deliver high-intent connections, but to do so in a way that protects you, your business, and your clients. And while I can't predict every twist and turn that comes with litigation, I can tell you this with confidence. Zillow will support and stand by our partners throughout this process. We'll keep you updated as things evolve. Your growth advisors now have updated resources and FAQs so they can support you and your teams with clarity and confidence. More than anything, I want you to know how much we value your partnership. Zillow only succeeds when you do. And we are committed to standing by with you through moments of industry uncertainty and beyond. Thank you for your continued partnership.
All right, so there it is. Zillow is going to stand by all of their partners. Oh, the quality's low. That's why. I thought maybe some artifacting around her head and hair meant that. I'll just replay it kind of in the background while we talk about it. But I thought maybe some artifacting around her hair was more indicative of AI, like you see it over here on the left. And it could be, but it also could be a poor green screen usage. But yeah, this is all kind of blurry lines, which that's also what you see with hair on AI, but I don't know. I don't think it's AI. I think it's more what somebody said in the comments on Instagram. It just doesn't seem authentic, as Thomas A. Canadia says. Dylan Irwin says, risk management, if something is misstated or false misinformation, they can say it's AI's fault. No, I couldn't say that. You're responsible for the AI you put out. So I don't think they could get away with that. I'm going to display more of your comments. Let me move myself out of the way first. Let's go back up here. Third-party companies have increasingly used home inspection software as a gateway to capture referrals, embedding marketing and lead generation and contractor networks directly into the inspector's workflow. I don't think that's a violation. I think that would be okay. It's just marketing together. I don't have any problem with that. The problem I have is when the real estate agent says, no, you should use this. You should use this lender. This lender is the best lender. And they're getting a huge kickback from that system, and in that they get more clients. That's the problem I have with it. Let's see. Cooper Skelton says, didn't North Carolina legislature say that they're going to go after any real estate agent associated with Zillow Flex and suspend their license? Really? I didn't see that. North Carolina real estate Flex. And we'll go to news. I didn't see that one. If you know where that is, send me a link to that. I'd love to cover that. That's interesting. Huh. Okay, so there it is. Zillow says that they're going to stand by their Flex partners, offer a co-defense. Like I said, guys, if you are named in this lawsuit, if you happen to watch this show, which I do know a couple of Flex partners that watch the show. If you happen to watch the show, get your own legal defense. Do not rely on a co-defense, or at least have somebody look at what they're proposing, the defense package, I guess you could say, before you agree to it. It's just good business, you know? The video largely seemed to address the allegations levied in the recent class action lawsuits over kickbacks and misleading practices with the preferred agent program. Zillow claims these lawsuits are false and fundamentally mischaracterized on how Zillow operates. It's just restating the video we just watched. And yeah, there's nothing else in there. It's very long though. On one frequently asked question Zillow addressed in the email was whether or not the agents put themselves at risk by participating in the Zillow Preferred. The company replied by saying it can't predict every legal development. Yeah. But maintains that its business model is misrepresented. Interesting. Consumers make their own choices to avoid any behavior that might come across as steering. Zillow urged agents to follow their brokerage guidance. So document places where consumers make their own choice. It's interesting. They're basically saying, no, all of our documentation and everything says that we haven't done anything wrong. And yet a lot of people have come out and said, well, despite what their documentation said when they were at this presentation, they said that we get scored by how many ancillary services we suggest our clients to. So it is kind of quid pro quo. Living in Columbia, South Carolina. What's up? I wouldn't be surprised because North Carolina doesn't play around. They kicked open door out of the state for a while. Wow, really? That is wild. Yes. Y'all send me the link. Any links that you have. This is a good reminder too. Any links that you guys have. You can go to Ray Zorback on Instagram, RayZorback on Instagram, and send me that link, and we'll cover it during the show. So I should also mention, if you guys hate the show, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so that you can hate on it live. You'll be notified live whenever we go live. So subscribe and hit that bell, because there's no better way to hate on the show than to hate on it live. All right. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm a little nervous for my friends in the Flex program. I think they're going to wind up writing big checks. So as soon as class actions get all revved up, I am a little nervous for you guys. So let me know what happens. Redfin says it won't follow Zillow in removing climate risk data. This was a not so big article that we covered last week, because I thought, yeah, surely this is like normal. Why in the world would someone even have climate risk data on their website? Because they're at risk of lowering the value of some properties and then being liable for that, right? But Redfin says it won't follow in Zillow in removing the climate risk data. So they think it's worth it to have it on there. That's the takeaway from Redfin's latest report, which found that home buyers flock to climate risk data after natural disasters. The national click-through rate for its data rose after Hurricanes Helene and Milton, 3.3% to 4.1%. Los Angeles wildfires, 3.5% to 3.9%. The Texas Hill County floods, 3.3% to 3.6%. So they get about a 4% boost of clicks on their website. So because they get that boost, man, they don't want to remove the information, even though it may be inaccurate. Redfin on Tuesday reaffirmed its commitment to keeping climate information on its listings, saying in an email to Inman that the company will not be changing the way it displays the climate risk data, even though Zillow opted to remove it. Humans often have short memories when it comes to natural disasters, Redfin chief economist Daryl Fairweather said in a written statement. A major fire or storm can jolt home buyers into paying attention to climate risk because the event feels fresh and it's likely to happen again, but urgency is fleeting. Yeah, those 500-year floods are likely to happen again in 500 years. We used to use historic data. For those of you confused on exactly what's happening here, we used to use historic data to predict future events. And so we used to say, well, this is a 500-year floodplain, so there's not going to be another flood here for 500 years on average because there's been, one in the last 5 years. Or this is a 100-year floodplain. There have been 2 recorded floods in the last 200 years. So we used to use that historic data. Now, what insurance companies are using is predictive data based on climate change. So now you may not be in a floodplain, but if the oceans are rising on that side, then you will be in a floodplain eventually. And because of that, your insurance rates could change. And also just the climate risk of your property is increased. And people wonder why insurance premiums have gone up, right? And there was an article that we covered 2 or 3 years ago that said that insurance companies could start to use that data in their analysis of properties. And homeowners insurance has gone through the roof ever since. So have the profits of the insurance companies. But the government was like, no, we want to use this climate data. But why don't more people see these? Connect the dots, y'all. Connect the dots. Climate change has nothing to do with global warming, global cooling. You remember the 70s, it was the ice age that was coming. And then it was global warming. And then, what year did Al Gore say the world would be? What year did Al Gore, he invented the internet, by the way, say the earth would be destroyed? Let's see. I want to say there used to be a countdown. There used to be a countdown on Rush Limbaugh's website. I remember the countdown. That was great. And nothing happened when it got there. Oh, we had 10 years left. That's what it was. We had 10 years left, and that was in... When was that? This is great. This is hilarious. Let's see. Yeah, it's already passed. 10 years is up, it says. From the day that Al Gore said we had 10 years left, Rush Limbaugh started a countdown. And then nothing happened. So it was January 27th, 2006. We'll begin the count. And then by January 27th, 2016, nothing had happened. So for years and years and years, everybody's been predicting the apocalypse. And it's just not happened. Consider the source. Al Gore, is that what you're saying? Yeah. But what has happened is the threat of all these climate changes has allowed insurance companies to necessarily skyrocket the rates and affect people now. And it's affecting for us for generations. So I don't know about all this. I think there's some changes that could be made. I'll leave it there for now. The average buyer's agent compensation, though, that's gone up. Your browser has lost connection to your screen share audio. Oh, that's fine. I don't want screen share audio on this one. The average buyer's agent compensation has risen slightly since the new NAR rules went into effect. Oh, it says the word commissions. More on that later. Oh, hang on. Let me go back to that. I got a good comment here. I just remember in middle school, my teacher said that Tampa would be the new Everglades by the time I would be 40. I'm 44 now. Well, is it the new Everglades? I can remember so obviously I'm from Arkansas. I went to high school in Arkansas and school in Arkansas. I can remember learning about the walking catfish in Florida. Science. I assume it's not the Everglades. All right. Average buyer agent compensation has risen slightly since the new NAR rules went into effect. What? How could this be? I thought the new rules were supposed to decrease the amount buyers and sellers pay real estate agents in a transaction. And you're telling me that that number's gone up? How could this ever happen? Do you mean that there's actually more value provided than what the seller was previously covering? The average U.S. buyer's agent commission was 2.42% for homes sold in the third quarter. That's up from 2.3% a year earlier. Commissions were virtually flat on the second quarter, 2.43%, leveling out after minor upticks in 3 consecutive quarters. Commissions are higher now than when the NAR rules went into effect. You know who's really broken up about this? Catchmark. The attorneys are really broken up about this, actually, because they feel bad because they made so much money on the deal, and now consumers are just left to pay more. And from what I understand, they're really trying to do what they can to represent buyers and sellers again in a lawsuit, because they got to make this right. You know, they tried one time and it didn't work. The third quarter marked the anniversary of the new commission rules that went into effect August 2024, and the average buyer's agent commission fell to a low of 2.36% that quarter, but has nudged slightly higher since. If demand were high and homes are selling fast, I think we would see more sellers offering a lower commission to buyer agents. But now, the market is so much slower, and buyers have negotiating power over sellers. If anything, the buyers can ask for a higher commission than their agents, knowing that they may be the only offer on the table. What? Are you saying commission fluctuates because the market? So it depends on it's not market independent. It's dependent upon the market. No. So there's the charts. Buyer's agent compensation is interesting. Around 1 million is 2.2. And then around less than 500K is 2.5. There's other articles on this too. Inman has an article on it. It's basically saying the same thing because they're all using the report. And then Broke Agent Media, same report. Slightly different chart. Slower market equals buyer, stronger buyer leverage. That's what it's saying there. All right, speaking of Florida, I thought this article was interesting. Florida firm granted a $24,000 after buyer breaks broker agreement. So broker owner Jeff Lichtenstein said that he hopes the outcome of the arbitration serves as a benchmark for future cases that realtors are rightfully paid for the work they put in. Since the National Association of Realtors settled the landmark commission lawsuit in 2024, new industry practices went into effect. There's been a lot of talk about buyer broker agreements. If memory serves me correct, I used to use Florida as an example of a state that doesn't use buyer broker agreements. It's like buyer beware. So the buyer broker agreements are fairly new in Florida, right? Because now what they're seeing is what we've always seen, that when you have an agreement with the buyer and they're supposed to pay you, then they pay you. It's been like that for 20 something years in Arkansas. Echo Fine Properties broker owner Jeff Lichtenstein learned firsthand what happens when the situation was found out in late 2024 from a mortgage broker that a buyer who had signed an exclusive agreement with Ecofine Properties was purchasing a property from a different firm. After unsuccessfully attempting to get in contact with the buyer, Liechtenstein firm filed for arbitration after the buyer's home purchase had closed. For the brokerage community, if a buyer-brokerage agreement is written up and executed properly, and that buyer purchases, it means we get compensated for the work we've done. That's reassuring on our end and a sign of relief, for most every profession gets paid for their job with health and a 401k benefits. Our pay structure is by choice. We get out of it what we put into it, but getting compensated is something we expect at the end of a deal. So how the arbitration went down, I thought this was pretty interesting. Liechtenstein told Inman in an email that the arbitration process took a long time, but seems to have paid off for the firm. Once the firm learned that their buyer presented a written offer on a property with competing agent, they notified the buyer in writing that they had violated their buyer-broker agreement. The very next day, Ecofine Properties received an amended buyer-broker agreement that replaced the name of the original buyer with their mother's name. Oh. Then 3 weeks after that, another amendment replaced the buyer's mother's name with the original buyer's name again. Liechtenstein said a variety of reasons were given for the name changes, from spiritual ones to the claim that the buyer was only the lender on the home. The arbitrator determined that the buyer-broker agreement was unambiguous and clear, that the buyer read and understood the contract before signing it. The arbiter found that the buyer's argument that the 180-day contract period established the buyer-broker agreement was excessive was not persuasive. So they had a 180-day contract with them. Likewise, the buyer's argument that their Ecofine Properties agent provided little to no value was found unpersuasive by the arbiter, given that the agent educated the buyer on the market and the home values in the area and brought the buyer into new homes with their family. Ultimately, the arbiter determined that by entering into the purchase agreement with their Ecofine Properties agent and refusing to pay them a commission for that agent's services stipulated in the contract, the buyer violated the buyer-broker agreement. Yeah, I mean, this is what we have here. We have two agreements, actually. One is exclusive, one is non-exclusive. And a lot of people think it's better to enter into a non-exclusive agreement in Arkansas, and they'll say, like, no, I don't want to be exclusive. Make it non-exclusive. But we try to explain to them, like, a non-exclusive agreement doesn't mean that you don't have to pay me if you buy a house. It means that you do have to pay me and anyone else that you were entered into a non-exclusive agreement. So non-exclusive agreements for us, we get paid on. So if you sign a non-exclusive agreement with me and then just up and ditch, after I've educated you on the market, I've taken you through a buyer's consult, I've done everything I can to help you find a home, and you just ditch me and buy it with someone else, I get paid, yo. That non-exclusive agreement means that anyone you've signed a non-exclusive agreement with can invoice you for payment. Now, an exclusive agreement in Arkansas means that no one else can invoice you. If you've signed multiple exclusive agreements, number one, you're an idiot. Number two, that would be for the courts to determine exactly what happened. So, yeah, interesting, huh? We only use exclusive for the most part. There are some investors that we use non-exclusives for because we understand that they have other agents, and we'll specify the area that we work with them. But yeah, it's fascinating. I love contract stuff. I actually watch court in my down. And like I'll have like a court case happening because I just like hearing the legal arguments on stuff. Anyone else? Is it just me? Especially when, oh man, Johnny and Amber were going at it. I thought that stuff was fascinating. So, all right, you want to know how much NAR people are getting paid? You don't. You don't want to know. Let me just tell you. You don't want to know. Drop in the comments now. How much do you think Nakia Wright's getting paid? How much is the, what's the CEO of NAR getting paid? Drop in the comments. If you're on the replay crew, drop it in the comments. We'll come to it later. So I love Broke Agent Media's take on this because it's like, it is no gloves. Inside NAR's 2024 spending, what the new Form 990 reveals. NAR's 2024 Form 990 reveals how member dollars were spent, including executive salaries, contractor spending, and major line items at the association. Every year, BAM digs in. Yeah, they do. And after a year, defined by promises of transparency, lingering lawsuits, and public scrutiny over spending habits, this year's filing carries even more weight. The New York Times published an expose on NAR's culture of excess, six-figure, quote, volunteer stipends. This year, before the 2024 Form 990 hit ProPublica, where it's normally accessed, NAR proactively shared the filing with media requested it, including BAM. It's a small and perhaps meaningful signal that the association has repeatedly promised a new era of transparency. But today, all right, they're promising member transparency, but are they going to tell us how many members left? Because remember that they stopped counting membership. Are you ready? Nakia Wright, CEO. She received $2.5 million in reportable compensation and another $57,000 in other compensation. Mark Birchbach, SVP of Strategic Business Innovation, 1.2, we'll say 1.3 million, plus 57,000 in other. Shannon McGann, Chief Advocacy Officer, 1.2 million. Katie Johnson, General Counsel and Chief Member Experience Officer, 900,000. Lawrence Yoon, 845,000. All of them have the 57,000 of other. John Pierpoint, Chief Financial Officer, 815,000. Suzanne Bua, Chief Marketing and Communications Officer, 624,000. Mark Gold, 500,000, SVP of Member Development. Beth Brittingham, SVP of Leadership Resources, 408,000. Kevin Sears, NAR President, 357,000. That is interesting. He doesn't have any additional compensation, but that is interesting that the president of NAR is one of the lower paid people. Kevin Brown, first vice president, we're still paying him 228. Gregory Krabak, NAR Treasury, 218. Shannon White, Chief HR, 82,000. Tracy Casper, NAR President through 1/8/2024, 42,000. How long was Tracy? How long was she president? She was barely president, right? Here are some consultations. The contractors, right? Havas Media Group, $42 million. Brunswick Group, Public Relations, $15 million. Uncommon Creative Studio, $8 million. Freeman Event Management Services, $7 million. Cooley LLP Legal Counsel, $6 million. Maybe you should have spent a little more on legal counsel to avoid $4 billion expense, right? And then they go on to talk about the revenue, how much they took in, basically 350 million. That's a wild number to me. I heard somebody raise their hand. Did somebody raise their hand? No. Okay. Ugh. I should change jobs. I should go into politics for sure. SVP, Strategic Business Innovation and Tech, is just 1.3 million. I feel like Chief Advocacy Officer is probably the easiest of the jobs. 1.2 million. I could be an advocate for realtors. I am an advocate for realtors. I do it for free. Vince Klingdicht. What's up, man? I like mispronouncing your name. He says 2.6 million. You're close. You're close. You're real close. So, yeah. There you are, guys. But NAR says, let's talk about compensation, not commission. So they're also word policing you a little bit here. We need to rethink how the term commission undercuts professional image. You know, the highest paid people in the world are salespeople that make commission. I don't know how it undercuts us, but this article says it does. So you guys change your words, use the word compensation. You don't want to get written up for hate speech. Bam says RealScout announces a new AI search for pros. My only question on this, it basically uses a natural language model to parse out what someone is searching for. I commonly have to take out words for my clients when I'm searching for them, because if I put too much in there, it doesn't find what they're looking for. It just says like there's nothing on the market because of all the stipulations that I put in there, and the MLS does not carry all those stipulations. So all those pieces of criteria. So I guess my question is, how, does this, I'm assuming this does a way better job of that, and how? Because it would have to be able to look at the MLS, search, convert your text into MLS filters. That's nice, but I can't even use all the MLS filters on the MLS because agents don't put the information in. You try to search by school information in our area, nah. There's so many agents that don't put in school information. So, all right, let's cover the economy and then we'll get to the Fed announcement. Delistings jumped 37.9% as buyers and sellers split on market realty. Excuse me, market reality. Sorry, I was in the process of sneezing as I was trying to read. Delistings jumped 37.9% as buyers and sellers split on market reality.
Who are you trying to kid? That was an AI glitch, and this is all just an AI podcast now, or a northern accent. I don't know which one.
You're not allowed to say reality. It wants to change it to. All right, so buyers and sellers making strategic moves, but everyone's pulling their house off the market, 37.9%. The year-over-year comparison is what I'm most fascinated by here, because you could say 37%, but in reality, like how does that compare year over year? Where is it? I know it's on here somewhere. Hang on. Delisting activity is always big during Christmas. I thought it was on here. I'm not seeing it though. Wait a minute. Okay, there it is. 12.6% year over year. Active listings are up 12.6% year over year. So yeah, housing data shows delistings are up 37.9% year over year. Year over year, it's up 40%, but active listings are up 12.6% year over year. So there's still more listings than there were last year, even though the delistings have increased. Isn't that interesting? So we obviously had or have more inventory still than we did last year. Prices softened but remain historically high. The national median price is now $415,000. That's down 0.4% year over year. 2.2% month over month. Price per square foot's down 1% year over year. Median prices are 36.1% higher than November 2019. Price per square foot is 48.4% higher than 2019. So the market still had huge gains, and for the most part, they're keeping those gains. There's other news articles that say the same thing on Redfin. Inventory growth loses steam after would-be sellers react to lackluster homebuying demand and Christmas. Holidays. Locked in. This article is from realtor.com. Locked in homeowners face a steep increase in housing costs if they move. This goes into everything that we've already covered, but roughly, rates and things like that. Typical mortgage holder pays roughly $1,300 in principal and interest a month. To buy in today's market, it would require nearly $1,000 more per month, or 73.2% increase in mortgage payments. This translates to 13.7% increase. So what I would like to know, because this stat doesn't really do anything for me. What I would like to know is what they were paying last year or 2 years ago, and how at that time, what it was compared to, because you have in this mix people that have been in their house for 30 years, and people that have been in their house for 10 years, and people that have been in their house since they have 2% interest rates 3 years ago. So yeah, you're going to be paying more, but it's $1,000 more, 73.2% more if you bought with today's mortgage payment. But at least the mortgages, they're not going up. They're going down. Mortgage rates began rising in 2022. From 2022 through the most recent data in August 2025, only 22.1% of outstanding mortgages were originated, underscoring how sharply activity slowed once rates climbed. Okay, it's kind of a nothing burger article in my opinion. Refinance demand for FHA loans jumps 24% as homebuyers seek some savings they can. I always wonder during this time of year if people are refinancing their house, pulling a little money out for Christmas. That happened last year too. And it happened a couple of years ago as we were headed into winter months for the summer, like people getting ready for pools. And there was a big article about how people are pulling money out of their house to put a pool in. I think that was during the COVID years. So typical applications to refinance a home rose 14%. Applications to purchase a home dropped 2%. Which is still 19% higher than the same week a year ago. Don't forget that part. We're still 19% higher than the same week a year ago. You could have just put that as the article heading. But of course, they don't want to do that. Starter homes climb 5%, but prices stay in check as inventory hits 9-year high. So starter home sales rise 4.9% in October, outpacing other tiers. What are the reasons why these starter homes have such high supply? Is because a lot of people at the top of the market are still trying to get those aspirational sales prices, and people at the bottom of the market, even if they are trying to get an aspirational sale price, as a percentage, it's not as high. So they're still able to make a deal. But the bottom percent of the bottom, probably 60% of housing is moving way faster than the top 30%. So that makes sense. Also, more homes are being built in that price range. Construction labor market is stable. This is a week after the article that we talked about how bad the construction labor market was. You remember that? You remember that last week? Well, no, it's stable. Maybe it's stable but bad. Construction job openings rate declined 2.5% in October, lower than the 2.9% estimated rate estimated a year ago. Layoff rate in construction declined 1.8% in October. The quits rate edged lower to 1.4%. So fairly stable situation there. The number of jobs for the overall economy was unchanged. The October reading was relatively unchanged. All right, investor activity is also muted. A lot of people sitting on the sidelines. Purchases were up 1% as market share is holding steady. This is the investor share year-over-year growth of investor purchases. As you can see, they had huge declines when prices skyrocketed during COVID. They also had huge increase during the first bit of COVID before the prices ran up. So investor purchases of 17% of all homes were slightly up from a year ago. So mostly unchanged investor share. National investor market share is at 17%. Saying, oh, what just happened? Everything just switched off and back on. That's weird. Hopefully I'm still broadcasting. Yeah. So
you are on Clubhouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard and everything switched off and then came back on. So I don't know.
That would have been a bummer, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? I haven't even got to the Fed announcement. All right, a couple of interesting things that I want you guys to look up for later. Walmart and Alquist strike a landmark deal, jump-starting 3D printed commercial real estate. I think this is one of the best applications of 3D printing yet, because there's so much. You could use alternate materials in commercial construction way faster than you can get it to residential. But then by using it there and perfecting it there, you could bring it to residential kind of polished. But at the same token, commercial real estate deal volume drops for the first time in nearly 2 years. And I don't know if that's because commercial real estate is starting to go back up in price and people can't get the deals they want. I don't really know exactly what's causing that. It's first month of negative year-over-year transaction volume growth in the sector in nearly 2 years. So the recovery has been slow and bumpy, much like interest rate policy. After gaining significant momentum coming out of the pandy, this last year has been rough. October was the first month of negative year-over-year transaction volume. Okay, let's see what the Fed said. I gave them enough time this time to read to write the whole article. Here's what changed in the new Fed. Oh, wait, hang on. I got to get the news bumper. Here we go. Breaking news from This Week in Real Estate. All right, here's what changed with the new Fed statement. This comparison of Wednesday's Federal Open Market Committee statement was one issued after the Fed's previously policy-making decision in October. Wait, hang on. Is that the actual, what? It's a compare. Oh, I see. It's the changes. Text appearing in the first statement. So basically, they're just talking about how they changed. In support of its goals in line with the shift in balance of risk, the committee decided to lower the target range for the federal funds by a quarter point to 3.5 to 3 3/4. In considering the extent and timing of the additional adjustments to the target range for the federal funds rate, the committee will carefully assess incoming data. It always says that. They took out the sentence that said the committee decided to conclude the reduction of its aggregate securities holding on December 1st. So they took that out. I guess because the date has passed. The committee judges, this is a red section that's a change. The committee judges that reserve balances have declined to ample levels and will initiate purchases of shorter term securities as needed to maintain the ample supply of revenues in the ongoing basis. There you go. So we got a quarter point drop. Hopefully we'll see some, hopefully we'll see the actual interest rate. I know, guys. It's not directly related. It's corollary, kind of, but, I know it's indirectly related, but still, hopefully the rates will go down. We'll see. But that is, that's all I got for the show today, guys. Let me go. I got to get my closing. Hang on. Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining us. I know it was a lot of news, but I appreciate all of you guys that contributed. Thanks for sending me the articles ahead of time. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in, especially for Fed Day. It's a fun day. Next week is the prediction special. So come with your predictions ready. We want rate predictions. Where do you think the rate's gonna land at the end of 2026? I want a market opinion. Is it gonna be a buyer's or seller's market? And how will it end? And then I want one prediction of something that may be kind of wild. What do you think is gonna happen? It could be political. It could be scientific. It could be about anything. So what do you think is gonna happen in the world? And you could also have an industry prediction like that too. But thanks everybody for joining, and I will see y'all